If we are using cognitive dissonance theory as a persuasive method, there are three necessary conditions that need to be met in order for cognitive dissonance theory to work in persuasion. The first of these is that there should be some kind of aversive consequence to not changing. So the audience needs to believe that there is some kind of punishment that will happen to them if they don't change their attitudes, values, beliefs, or behaviors. So let's go back to our smoker, for example. If I was the friend of said smoker, and I said something to them like, if you don't stop smoking, then we can't hang out anymore, that would be a potential punishment to the smoker, to the listener, to the person that I am trying to persuade. The fact that we are no longer going to be spending time together should be seen as an aversive consequence to smoking. And so the smoker would then have to make the choice between the habit of smoking and hanging out with their good friend. And so they are seeing that as a punishment for not changing the behavior of smoking. It's an aversive consequence. So that's one of the conditions of cognitive dissonance theory. Another condition is that the listener must feel like they have the freedom to make the choice that is best for them. If the listener feels like there is any type of coercion that is happening in the message, then they are much less likely to change their attitude, value, belief, or behavior. So if the listener feels like we are twisting their arm or forcing their hand in any way, then they aren't going to feel like there is the freedom of choice, and they likely are not going to make the decision that we want them to make. The final condition has to do with external and internal justifications. When we're talking about an external justification for something, these are reasons outside of our control that make us support our attitudes, values, beliefs, and behaviors. Whereas internal justification happens when we are voluntarily change our attitude, value, belief, or behavior in order to reduce cognitive dissonance. So external justification is something that is outside of our control, and internal justification is something that is within our control. And so predictably, if we are using internal justification in our persuasive message, this is much more likely to result in the change that we want to see. So in other words, we have to make our audience believe that they are the ones who are making the change, that they are making this change voluntarily and of their own volition. If they feel like it is a reason outside of their control, then they are much less likely to make that change. But in addition, any change that is made is going to be less permanent because they don't feel like they have that control over it. So in order for cognitive dissonance theory to work as a persuasive method, there must be an aversive consequence, so some kind of punishment. The audience must feel like they have the freedom of choice, and we should try to use internal justification to accept the change.